the first show in 2022, and I'm very thrilled because I started this fertility empowerment show again, and I have Kristin Shadic. We're going to go through fertility during and after cancer. That's going to be a very interesting topic, and hopefully you can wait and see till the end. Be with us till the end. All right, Kristin, welcome to my show.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much. So, Kristin Shadic is the Chief Commercial Officer of GoStork, right? And
Yes,
actually, um, I talked to one of your colleagues, and Rebecca, right?
correct.
I love what she's doing. She actually advertised my book, Naturally Conceived. And I was like, oh my goodness, who advertised it? I didn't know her. And then I tried to know her and I see what amazing work they've done about the fertility. And you have some engagement with third parties. You have a website that is amazing. And the kind of work and mission will start doing is the one that I really wanted to introduce to others who are struggling with fertility and they don't have a success up till now. So there are other ways to get pregnant, even if they cannot do it naturally by themselves. So Kristen is here. She has a very interesting story about her own fertility journey. So I asked her to come here and talk about it. All right, Kristen, tell me about yourself and when did you start working as a commercial officer in GoStork?
Well, to tell you a little bit about myself and how it relates to GoStork and what we're doing at GoStork. Basically, I, like many millions of people, I think the newest statistic is 1 in 8 people will struggle with fertility. They will have challenges. It may take a long time or be a very protracted process to get pregnant. And that was really my story. And then, ironically, I have always worked in the fertility and infertility industries. So when it really happened to me, I was blessed with having a lot of information and knowing a tremendous amount compared to any other kind of patient journey or thing that could happen in our health and in our life. But at the same time, there were plenty of pitfalls and plenty of things that I didn't know. And when I came across GoStork as a business, everything that they were putting together, I knew why they were putting it together. I had already lived through the patient odyssey, and I had already been an executive within fertility industries that were trying to help and support patients either to get pregnant or once they already are pregnant and certain testing and things that they'll need early on in their pregnancy. And I became a chief commercial officer about 2 years ago or so. Before that, was a national and vice president of sales and have always been on the sales and revenue side of businesses that are in women's health care.
All right, tell me about your story first. I'm not sure if your story related to third party fertility or egg donor or whatever, but you have blessed with 3 kids, and that's great. And I know that you have a story of breast cancer as well, right? So what happened to you? And that was your first child happening with the breast cancer, or that was your third one?
Second.
Second one. Okay, go ahead.
So basically, what had happened was I was dealing with secondary infertility, the way so many others deal with that. And basically, what was going on is in my process of trying to conceive, trying a lot of different things, including a lot of my husband and I really started with a very au naturel approach. We sought out a naturopath, and I really credit the naturopath to helping me understand so many things that were simple fixes to what we were going through in our infertility journey. And still to this day, I really rely on that naturopath and having a naturopath in my life. But somewhere in the process, after a few miscarriages, rather than having something successful come of pregnancy or another miscarriage and more miscarriage information, I instead got a breast cancer diagnosis, which halted all things that, of course, my husband and I were going through and planning for. And to anyone out there that's ever been through a life-threatening diagnosis of any kind or a cancer diagnosis, the world stops and there's just white noise as you fear to try to save your life and to try to understand how this has happened or how long cancer's been inside of you. So that was my journey. And then picking up the pieces a few years later after feeling safe with my breast cancer diagnosis and what's next, the what's next phase of the motherhood journey and how that affects so many of us. And that's really where GoStork comes in, because for those that have high risk breast cancer or high risk other kinds of women's cancer, it is oftentimes very dangerous to carry a pregnancy. And you may be healthy, you may have an excellent prognosis for cancer, in your life or it never coming back, but you could be at high risk or really endangering yourself to carry another pregnancy. And so you become a very important candidate for surrogacy, also known as utilizing a gestational carrier in the US.
But your journey was different, right? You had a natural fertility.
My journey with my second child was actually utilizing a naturopathic doctor, so that there was a lot that could be done to sort of help myself and my husband go about the conception process, and utilizing that naturopath, finding out some of the basics that people really need to know about just successfully conceiving in any way that they're conceiving, whether they're utilizing IVF, whether they're utilizing home IUI. What's interesting is the GoStork user, there's a lot of diverse users out there that are conceiving in a lot of different ways, really depending upon if they are straight, if they're in the LGBTQ plus community, et cetera. And so for my own story, one of the ways in which my husband and I were utilizing a naturopath was to find out things that we had no idea were really on our radar, such as vitamin D levels being too low, the fairly common use of progesterone and other things that you can use to support that pregnancy once you are pregnant. So all of those things really came into play and did matter, and made a tremendous difference in our ability to conceive and carry the pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy.
So you actually applied the naturopath way, right, with your naturopath doctor to get pregnant for the
Yes.
second. Okay.
Yes, we utilized a lot of the information and tools from our naturopathic doctor that we honestly didn't know about, and that we just didn't get that kind of information. It wasn't as in-depth when we wound up utilizing other doctors. So we were very happy to go to her to really start looking at things like vitamin D levels and how progesterone can help the pregnancy along, etc.
As somebody who already had breast cancer, hopefully you don't have it right now, right? You already passed this stage.
That's the tricky thing with cancer. I hopefully I am cancer free at this point. All indications would show that I am completely cancer free now. But I, as a cancer survivor, certainly have this question mark in the back of my head all the time, wondering, because the diagnosis for very early stage cancer that has, spread somewhere can be difficult to detect. But fingers crossed, I am healthy and cancer-free. That is certainly what I've been told by my doctors.
All right, great. So I have a few questions first. What did it help to be cancer-free? What kind of process did you go? Did you do chemo or you did a lot of naturopathy and
Yes.
nutrition?
And, I would say that GoStork is really trying to also be a resource for individuals out there that are going through this journey and or those that are going through sort of oncofertility, which includes the part of your cancer journey where you may be wanting to freeze your eggs or freeze embryonic tissue to really start to focus on what might happen after your cancer process. But for me, I had a highly proliferating, high risk breast cancer that had not grown that much, meaning it was a stage 1 breast cancer as opposed to a stage 4, nor had it spread that we know of throughout my body and through my lymph node system. Nevertheless, it was a highly proliferating, meaning highly turning over and growing kind of cancer. And because of that, there's a lot of good testing out there now. There's genetic testing that helps your oncologist determine if you're going to need chemotherapy. And in fact, halfway through my chemotherapy journey, there were some new articles coming out to really talk about how many women are receiving chemotherapy and is that necessary? And I think that the numbers of women receiving or patients receiving chemotherapy has dropped some, but they use this score. For myself, it was called an oncotype score. It's an oncotype test. And it came back that it was very high risk. The numbers were very high. And therefore, I was going to be the patient that required chemotherapy unless I refused it.
So you did it for how long?
I did what's known as a dose-dense regimen, which means a regimen of chemotherapy that normally would be given every 3 weeks was given every 2 weeks. A dose-dense regimen is pretty common for a young person because what they're really trying to do is overwhelm the cancer cells with the chemotherapy in a shortened period of time, and then have the chemotherapy done, so it's not such a protracted experience for the patient.
So after chemotherapy, how long did it take you plan for another chemo?
Well, that was a back and forth discussion between myself and all of my doctors to really understand what was safe for me and what was, it's so hard for a cancer survivor until you're outside of some important windows to really think about what your next steps are. It's hard to know if you're out of the woods, so to speak. And so it was a 4-year journey for us, a substantial amount of time, of which most of it was really focused and taken up with really a lot of cancer activity. Even though technically you're cancer-free, you're eating the cancer diet. You're avoiding the foods that you never thought of before. You're taking the cancer support type supplements as well as medications. So there's this entire lifestyle shift. And, lifestyle shifts, major lifestyle shifts really take time. Anyone that says, I shifted and everything changed in 3 months, that was not my experience. And that's not those people's experience that I talked to.
It takes time.
It really does. Real time. So 4 years in, I can say, yes, eating this and not eating that is top of mind. I don't forget about it. I stay conscious. But it's a journey. It's a journey with all of those things that, in my case, help to keep me cancer-free.
Beautiful. We're going to talk about it in more deep conversation, but we need like a few second break and we come back again. Please subscribe to Panta Calhor Transition channel and order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Thank you for watching. First of all, I'm going to know about the detoxification, if you had any detoxification to just get rid of those hormones and those chemos out of your body.
Yes. So interestingly enough, I have a group of women friends that went through breast cancer just before me. As you know, breast cancer is, I think it's 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. So there's a lot of us. And I had a really good friend, and I would call her like my breast cancer mentor at this point, who turned me on to a lot of detoxification. And really the idea of cleaning the liver, even though, you may need chemotherapy, what can you do to help yourself after the fact? And so I did go to a wellness center here in New York City to do some of that detoxification. And there's plenty of supplements from my naturopath as well that include different kinds of detox. There's cellular detox, which is taking supplementation that really increases apoptosis. And that kind of cleaning of the body. And then there's that more straightforward liver cleaning. And Eve, I did what I could afford. Honestly, these are very expensive procedures. So I did little bits along the way. And it was amazing to feel probably a year and a half out that I felt like it's finally out of my body. I finally feel clean and clear of it, and some of the symptoms and unusual things that are in your body that you feel are linked to chemotherapy, the fogginess in the brain, the certain kinds of muscle fatigue that were never there before, et cetera, et cetera. So I did do as much cleansing as I could.
Mm-hmm. For my own coaching purpose in fertility, the first thing I always recommend is just go through the test to see if you have any food sensitivity or any problem with detoxification, because people are very sensitive about the detoxification, and some people can't take it. So you have to see what kind of detoxification you're doing. Can they tolerate it, or that's what you need as well, right? Because sometimes it really affects your liver and your body go out of balance if the detoxification is not on a right step and it's not on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think this is such an important thing as well when you bring up the liver, because, the liver, we need the liver, and we need the liver to be clean and healthy. It is the ultimate sort of waste processing part of our bodies. And so when we're going through chemotherapy or when we're utilizing supplements after we're done with cancer, we really need the liver to stay strong. So I'm with you. I really love that suggestion. It's important to know what you're doing, and that the cleansing and the detoxifying is working uniquely for your body.
exactly. So now go back to GoStork. It's here, www.gostork.com. Stork means that bird, right?
That bird that brings the baby,
Yeah,
right? Yes.
yeah. I saw your logo as well. That's the same as stork there.
So there's the stork that's bringing the baby. That's right. Uh,
Yeah.
and really, sort of our tagline is your family starts here with GoStork. Yeah, so GoStork was created by Iran Amir, who is our CEO and founder. And basically, GoStork was created because he, as a single man, wanted to grow his family and knew that he wanted to build a family. His entire life had wanted to have children. And through the process, actually, of dating and eventually meeting his husband and getting married and all of that, he had already begun his family building journey. And when he first went to his HR department, he worked in a finance job, and he's always been in technology. The HR department basically said, no, we don't have any benefits for you. No, we don't have any suggestions for you. And he was kind of on his own trying to navigate, not understanding how a single man could go about this. And so through that painful journey of piecing together every single step. And for him, obviously, including having an egg donor, needing a gestational surrogate, finding the right agency. That is how GoStork was born. And at some point, he sat back and said, as someone that spent my whole career in technology, I think I can build a better way. And boy, was he right. And GoStork was born.
What I saw in your website about the egg donors is that people have choice to go and see the profile, see which one they like, maybe the lifestyle, or because they're gonna get the egg from them, right? It's very important. Sometimes you just go somewhere to get the egg, you even don't know who is the donor, and sometimes it's so painful because anyway, we genetically inherit a lot of
Yes.
DNA, a lot of DNA information from them. So we need to know, right? It's all right to know. And then I saw the website. I said, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen before that you can actually choose the donor there. And yeah, that's
Yes. So what GoStork has done basically is, um, there's a lot of egg donor agencies out there, and there's also egg banks where egg donors have already frozen their donor specimen. And so a fertility consumer can go to an agency to look at egg donors, or they could go to a bank. But what oftentimes happened before GoStork is that you would be going to 20 different places, creating a user account, navigating through these systems. Some of these systems charge you a lot of money to be able to even look at donors. And the same thing was going on with sperm donors. Okay. So you have all of these different disparate companies that would have, let's say some agencies might have 2,000 donors, another agency might have 50, another agency would have 350. And you're searching through trying to find what's ideal for you. Thanks to GoStork, now you can go and look at over 10,000 egg donors. You can look at fresh donors if that's what you're looking for and be connected to their agencies. You can look for frozen eggs if that's what you're looking for. And you can receive a lot of information about the donor's lifestyle, about their genetic history. The things that we think of top of mind are hair color, eye color, height, weight. But there's a lot more to it. You can even find out about the generational health. So how is the donor's mother's health, father's health? If a grandparent on the mother's side or father's side has already passed, what did they pass from? Was it, was there diabetes in the family? Was there other things that are valuable for the fertility consumer to know when they're thinking about that donor contribution there?
That's interesting. Yeah, it has a very strong database. I just look at that, and it's so interesting that you don't need to search in different agencies. I never use egg donor, but I know for some of my clients they do. Like they have to go through a lot of process. They don't know where to go and which agencies. This way you can even compare the prices, right? That's
Correct.
also so you
Correct.
can actually see which way is more economic for you, which way is better for you.
That is correct. And we also have a sort of sort and compare feature at GoStork, which is really valuable because if you're lucky enough to have 2 or 3 different donors or 2 or 3 different surrogacy agencies, or even 2 or 3 different IVF clinics that you're considering, you can really go and compare what the differences are. And all of the things that traditionally have been barriers or have been more opaque to the fertility consumer, such as pricing, is not opaque on GoStork. And that really is meaningful. That's really helping the consumer because they need to make decisions based on what can they afford in addition to what hair color, eye color, location, state, height, and so this compare feature really allows you to do that with every single step that you're looking at, whether it's just an egg donor, whether it's a surrogacy agency, or whether it's an IVF clinic.
So is it based in US, right? You
Yes, it
have,
is based in the US.
so if somebody lives in Canada or Europe, what they do? What?
Well, if you look at our user base, you will see that we have a user base that represents 90 different countries. So
Wow.
when we're talking about um, fertility medical treatment, we're also talking about fertility medical tourism. And a lot of places in the world, individuals or couples are coming into the United States to pursue fertility treatment. Now, we hope that our next step as far as expanding our own IVF clinic network will be in the most populous parts of Canada, our neighbor, our friend. You know, there are many excellent IVF clinics in the Toronto and Ontario area, of course, also in Vancouver. And so we're very open to building that network. Right now, the network is the US, and we have a few IVF clinics that also have locations in the Caribbean, have locations in the Ukraine, etc. But right now, we sort of connect users to the US based clinics.
Mhm.
But we do find that fertility tourism is a strong business to both Canada and the US. People from all over the world are coming to these two countries to seek treatment.
What is your recommendation for somebody who's struggling for fertility and diagnosed with cancer?
Yes, well, that's really a double whammy, and my heart goes out to that person, and I've really lived that journey so intimately. My recommendation to start with would be to make sure that you are with a physician and a physician team that understands how important motherhood is to you and is 100% protective of any and everything that can be protected for you. Once you're on the other side of this cancer journey, to reclaiming your own fertility, whatever that means for you. And so those physicians really need to be on board with helping you with fertility preservation or onco fertility preservation. And I would also encourage you to pull together both your surgical team, your oncology team, your integrated medicine team to work to, keep your body as healthy as possible while being a cancer survivor and a cancer patient, because you want to be able to, cancer aside, it's a struggle for those of us to get pregnant if our bodies aren't as healthy, if we're battling sort of a subacute autoimmune type of issue, the inflammation that affects implantation. So I would also really recommend that you add to your physician team a naturopath, a good naturopath, someone that's published and well researched, and so that you can also be in touch with a lot of other both tests and tools and supplements that may really support your body and support this entire journey that you're on, looking at it as holistically as possible. And I would say that if you're dealing with breast cancer or any kind of cancer and you're interested in motherhood, you're probably still pretty young. And to get connected to, a young survivors group or to some sort of group that you feel like there will be others to support you. They're in that journey. They're in that fight with you. There's a lot of resources there in that kind of community.
I like support groups. So when I was going to get pregnant, I was over 40 and I was connected to one of those support groups. It really helped because you know that there are other people same as you, same age, and they have the same issue and they get pregnant. So, and the same with the cancer as well, because you are on the same boat and you support each other, you give information, so you don't feel alone in your journey.
Right. And when you're a cancer survivor, depending on what kind of cancer you're surviving from, it may be safe for you to be pregnant. And it may be a little bit risky, but not as risky as for other patients. It's probably always going to be a bit stressful, though, because you've survived cancer, you've gone through a true health crisis. And even though pregnancy is so natural, it's also medical. And so you may feel that there's some feelings that cause some conflation around the joy, the excitement, and the, the mundaneness of pregnancy, conflated with what it was like to have another medical journey, which was cancer and very different from pregnancy. So just having that extra support and that community, I think, is really helpful.
Thank you so much, Christine, for being here. I really enjoyed talking to you, and that was very inspirational for people who are going through this journey as well, and for people who are looking for some extra help as a donor egg. Need somebody who is trusted, and they don't need to go to different agencies. So all the information is there. So it's a strong database, and you can go and search for it, and hopefully you find your ideal egg donor.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me today. And for all of your listeners, please go to GoStork.com. Please know that all of what we have available for those that may need some extra supports is free, as well as our concierge support, which was 100% free and complimentary. If you happen to need an egg donor, if you need a gestational carrier, please join us at GoStork.com and we'll be there to help you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.